economic growth. She quickly adapted to the review and compliance of complex mitigation bank projects. She currently holds the record for number of days to review and issue a mitigation bank permit for Pigeon Creek Mitigation Bank. With her guidance and ability to work with the consultants and applicants in the pre-application process, when the application was submitted, it was deemed complete and the permit was issued in 47 days. Thank you, Megan, and thank you for your 10 years of service to the district. We also have two very special retirement awards today, and the first is for Rich Berkeley, Bureau Chief in the Bureau of Water Use Regulation. Rich started his career with the district over 33 years ago as a hydrologist in the Palm Bay Service Center. Rich worked his way up to becoming the supervising hydrologist for the Palm Bay Service Center and later Bureau Chief for the Water Use Regulation Bureau. Rich is a licensed professional geologist, and he holds a bachelor's and master's degree in geology from the University of Florida. Go Gators!
Go Gators!
Rich is charged with overseeing the consumptive use permitting and water well construction programs. These two programs are critical to multiple core missions of the district as they provide water for economic development while also protecting our water resources. Rich is one of the most joyful team members at the district. He always has a positive attitude and treats both internal and external stakeholders with a great deal of respect. His positive, supportive, can-do attitude will be tremendously missed. Rich, thank you for your dedicated service to the district, and we congratulate you on your retirement. Also, a retirement award for Wendy Cox, Procurement Director in the Office of Financial Services. Unbelievably, Wendy started her career with the district as a senior clerical assistant in the print shop over 37 years ago. Through professional development and hard work, she fostered a progressively responsible career path leading to her selection as Procurement Director. She is a dedicated and ambitious professional who has demonstrated a lifelong commitment to professional achievement, including certifications as a professional public buyer and a public procurement officer. Wendy's outstanding leadership skills are evidenced by her team's cohesion and growth. She is known for excellent customer service as she is always ready to assist her team members and customers. Wendy received an award of excellence and was also recognized as Employee of the Year. Thank you, Wendy, for your many years of service to the district, and we congratulate you on your retirement.
Wow, Rich and Wendy, thank you so much for your dedicated service to the people of the state of Florida and to the district. And I think that the descriptions Robin had of both of your careers really just speaks to the value that you provided to our district over the years. Thank you so much for your service. Thank you. Well, in the spirit of Rich's teammate-oriented approach, does any of our employees, we always enjoy y'all being here, if y'all could wait just a second. Do any of our employees want to say anything or address the board? We view y'all as teammates, as friends. I know I'm putting anybody on the spot, but we want to just give you that opportunity at any time. If you, obviously you have the ability to talk to Mike, and feel free to do that, and HR and all this. And I don't mean that like you're going to bring up some complaint about your suite mate or something like that. Let's leave that for the HR people. But if there's anything anybody wants to express, or you're always welcome to do so, and want to make that opportunity known. All right, thank you. Good to see y'all. Y'all have a great day. All right, we're going to move to item 2, the hydrologic conditions report. Tim, Mr. Miller, you're recognized to present it.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Bradley and members of the Governing Board. I'm Tim Miller, Chief of the Bureau of Water Resource Information, presenting the May hydrologic conditions report representing data from the month of April. Beginning first with rainfall, precipitation received in April was minimal overall, and as you can see on the map, a large portion of the district received less than a half an inch through the month. The average total across the district was below the district-wide monthly average by nearly 2 inches. All 18 counties were at least an inch below normal, with 8 counties more than 2 inches below their averages. Countywide average rainfall totals range from a high of 1.21 inches for Marion County, which was the only county to average more than an inch of rain, to a low of 0.29 inches for Okeechobee County. Next, in reviewing rainfall over the past 12 months, the district-wide annual rainfall total is 0.33 inches below the annual average of 51.01 inches. We see that rainfall distribution on an annual scale has favored central and northern counties through the year, while areas along the southern coast and to the west have received less. 8 counties remain above normal, with 4 counties more than 3 inches above their annual averages, including Nassau, Duval, Volusia, and Seminole counties. 10 counties now are below their 12-month averages, with 6 counties more than 3 inches below normal. Of those 6 counties, Brevard County to the south and Baker County to the north are more than 5 inches below their averages. Countywide totals range from the lowest value of 44.26 inches for Osceola County to the highest value of 58.85 inches for Nassau County, which is nearly 7.5 inches above average. As we move next to talk about surface flows across the district, I want to mention that although the map and symbology will look familiar to you, we've made an update to help better communicate conditions observed throughout each month. Rather than presenting flow data that are the daily average for the first of each month, we've changed our statistics approach and are now presenting these flow data as monthly means. This will be particularly relevant and helpful for the tidally influenced portion of the river and allows for better representation overall of monthly conditions when compared to historical statistics. So through April, monthly mean surface flows have primarily shown decreases from the previous month, and flows ranged from average to very low. Locations in the middle basin and northern portion of the upper basin experienced flows in the very low or low range, respectively. To the west, our largest tributary, the Ocklawaha, remained in the average range, as did the St. Mary's River to the north. And in general, flows have remained on trend with lower rainfall amounts. In the next series of slides, we'll review the status of water levels at selected long-term lake sites. Overall, lake levels have declined through the month. Looking first at Lake Brooklyn, the water level decreased nearly a foot over the previous month, remaining above average. Lake Weir had a decrease of half a foot in April, continuing to be below the average water level. Water level at Lake Winnimisset decreased 0.8 of a foot through the month, continuing a steady decline, but remaining above the average level for this time of year. Lake Apopka's level decreased 0.6 of a foot from the previous month and is now below both its average and regulation schedule. Water level in Blue Cypress Lake also decreased 0.6 of a foot. Levels continued to be above average, but below regulation schedule at this location. Conditions in the upper Floridan aquifer have shown decreases in water levels across the district, but currently the majority of the district, about 65%, remains in the normal range or above. Small portions of counties in the north and northwest continue to exhibit high aquifer levels. In contrast, movement into the low range was observed across many coastal counties located in our central and southern regions, and smaller areas of very low conditions, as identified in orange on the map, expanded from last month. As you can see, shown by the red triangles, percentile decreases of greater than 10 were observed across approximately 75% of well sites in April. Even with these changes, the majority of water levels are in the normal range, and the aquifer is exhibiting resiliency, largely due to the high aquifer levels experienced in the preceding months following record precipitation received during the 2024 tropical season. Next, in looking at the district-wide index value for aquifer conditions, we see that the upper Floridan aquifer well index value at the end of April was 46, remaining in the normal range. Although trending lower, aquifer levels are doing well relative to this time of year as we move through our dry months with typical annual lows leading up to our expected summer wet season. In the next series of slides, I review changes in flow at selected spring sites with long-term monitoring. As you'll see, declines in flow were observed at each spring. The monthly mean for flow in Silver Springs decreased nearly 50 cubic feet per second from the previous monthly mean, and flow is in the normal range. At Blue Spring, the monthly mean showed a decrease of 15 cubic feet per second in April, ending the month just within the high range. A note to add here is that through discussions with our valued partners at the USGS, who work hard to provide us these data, we know that construction activities have again resumed at the spring. These have led to intermittent impacts to velocity readings, which may result in potential data anomalies in provisional data. So similar to last year, the USGS are addressing any issues as they work through their data QA process. At Rock Springs, flow had a slight decrease from the previous monthly mean and is just within the high range. A decrease of 4 cubic feet per second in flow was observed in the monthly mean at Wekiwa Springs. Despite a continued steady decline, flow is in the normal range for this time of year. The well plugging program was very productive in April, plugging 25 wells. The abandonment of those wells provided an additional savings of over 1.1 million gallons per day. Since November 2020, the program has now plugged nearly 700 wells, which equates to just over 85.5 million gallons of water saved per day. The next few slides relate to the below normal rainfall we've received 5 out of the last 6 months. Because of this, the district is experiencing drier conditions, which are typical of our dry season before we move into summer. Updated each week, this is the most recently published U.S. Drought Monitor assessment with data from May 6th. As you can see, all areas within the district boundary are at minimum classified as abnormally dry, which is shown in yellow. While our northern and southernmost counties are less impacted, drought conditions increase toward our central counties, where portions of Lake, Volusia, Marion, and Flagler counties are classified as D3 or extreme drought, as illustrated in the bright red color. As you can see, these conditions are not unique to our district, as varying degrees of drought are being experienced across the state. And drier conditions can cause an increase in irrigation demand as we move to higher temperatures and increased evapotranspiration that occur at this time of year. One caveat here is recent rains this month in May are anticipated to bring change to this map when the update is released later this week. Adding historical perspective to these drought data, this graph is a great tool to help visualize drought conditions, seasonality, and typical patterns through time. This is representative for the state of Florida over the past 25 years. The values on the y-axis to the left represent the percentage of land area throughout the state experiencing drought conditions, with the level of drought intensity indicated by the color, which is the same intensity scale as the map on the previous slide. So when these values reach 100% at the top of the graph, it indicates that drought conditions are being experienced statewide. And as you can see, between the year 2000 and 2025, this has occurred many times at various intensities. Some of the significant droughts that you may recall for our district within this time frame can be easily identified, such as in 2000 through 2001, where the percentage of Florida land area in extreme drought was over 60%, and exceptional drought was over 30% for a significant duration. In 2007 and 8, as well as 2011 and 12, we also saw challenging years for dry conditions, and to a lesser extent in 2017. One thing here to note is the seasonality of the drought cycle in relation to where we're at during this time of year. And as we move from our typically wet fall and into the dry winter and spring, some of the impacts from drier conditions, apart from elevated demand for irrigation, include restrictions or bans on burning. These limitations also typically restrict prescribed burning, and as such add an element of seasonality to our use of prescribed fire as a management tool, which you'll hear more about later today. Lastly, this is the Keach-Byram Drought Index map for Florida, which is updated daily, and these values are from yesterday. So designed to specifically for the assessment of wildfire potential, this helps to identify counties which are experiencing a heightened risk of wildfire. And this map is really reflective of recent rains, and none of the counties within our district currently have an index value over 500. However, as of yesterday, burn bans are still remaining in effect for several counties in our district, including Flagler, Volusia, Lake, Orange, Osceola, and Okeechobee counties. And here we can again see that counties outside of our district to the south and southwest have a higher risk of potential wildfire, and burn bans have remained active in several of those counties as well. This concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? All right, the historical drought data was a nice touch. Good job, Tim.
Thank you.
As was the KBDI. All right, item 22 on the originally published agenda, which was published on the district website. Item 22 has been updated, and I would ask before consideration of item 22 as a part of the consent agenda that Mr. Register explain changes to item 22.
Hello. There, that's on. Working now. This is our list of projects for Springs Restoration Funding and Water Supply Grant Program. And item 2 for the North Florida, Outstanding Florida Spring Aquifer Recharge Project, the total construction cost was updated for both of those tables.
That's the only change?
That's the only change.
All right. Okay. So, before us, members of the board, is items 11 through 22. Do any board members wish to pull any of those items, 11 through 22, for discussion? Anyone? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the balance of the entirety of the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I would like to make a comment.
Yes, go ahead.
Just want to say thank you to Mr. Jenkins and his team. I noticed the road
I
stabilization.
think the microphone,
Oh, am I not on?
we have a new system which is
Sorry.
working
Thought it-
quite well.
All right, maybe I just wasn't speaking into it clearly.
Oh, there you go.
There we go. Mr. Jenkins, I just want to say thank you for the stabilization project, 4 bids. The lowest bid versus the second lowest bid was a 35% savings. I think everybody knows it's kind of one of my things. I like to look at those bids and make sure we're saving some money. So good job.
Well, appreciate your diligence, Mr. Atwood, as a board member, and always staying on top of those situations and making sure that remains front and center and a priority. Thank you for that. Okay, I don't see any other discussion. Okay. That being said, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The item is approved unanimously. The consent agenda is approved unanimously. All right, we're going to move to item 4, which is a proclamation. Mr. Fitzgerald, you're recognized.
Thank you, and good morning, Chair and members of the board. I'm John Fitzgerald, the Bureau Chief for Water Supply Planning. Today we have a brief presentation on reuse water and a request for the board to approve a proclamation to declare May 18 through 24, 2025 as Water Reuse Week. The figure on the left shows the amount of reuse versus disposal in our district. The figure on the right highlights those utilities who are already reusing most of their wastewater and those where opportunities exist to increase reuse of the 169 million gallons per day of disposal. The district continues to actively work with utilities to develop and implement reuse projects that reduce discharged surface waters. In North Florida, some of its disposal water is being considered for potable reuse projects or for recharge projects that will benefit MFLs. On the next few slides, I will highlight several such projects in North Florida. One of the opportunities for reusing reclaimed water is a recharge project that the St. Johns and Swanee River Water Management Districts, the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, Clay County Utility Authority, St. Johns County Utility Department, Gainesville Regional Utilities, and JA have been collaborating on developing. The concept is to take 40 million gallons per day of JEA's excess reclaimed water, polish it in a treatment wetland, and then use this highly treated water to recharge the aquifer, which in turn will benefit our natural systems, including increasing flows at Itchitucknee and other outstanding Florida springs. This project was selected from a year-long collaborative effort by these entities, and the next step is to take the high-level concept shown in this figure and investigate and select treatment wetland and recharge sites, along with developing a conceptual design for these facilities. Additionally, 2 purified water demonstration facilities in North Florida will show how potable reuse can expand the water portfolio and reduce dependence on the Florida aquifer. Clay County Utility Authority's Project Quench is a potable reuse production and public education facility where CCUA tests, demonstrates, and educates stakeholders about the needs for and viability of treating high-quality reclaimed water to drinking water standards. The pilot facility is entering its 3rd quarter of testing, and by the end will conduct nearly 500,000 quality tests. JEA's H2O Purification Center is under construction and expected to be completed later this year. It will serve as a visitor center for outreach and education, provide for staff training, and optimize the performance of the treatment systems. Both of these facilities will provide the public the opportunity to ask questions about our water resources and learn about the treatment systems. At this time, staff is requesting the board's approval of the proclamation declaring May 18th through 24th, 2025 as Water Reuse Week.
All right, do we have a motion? Do we have a motion to approve the proclamation?
Move to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve Florida Water Reuse Week as from May 18th to May 24th, 2025. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Are we doing a,
Yes. Yeah.
let us do it.
I think we're trying to, all this stuff we don't have to. Motion that these pictures just be the.
We could all gather around. Say water. Sorry. There we go. All right. Next, we have a couple of important items that deal with 2 growing areas of our district boundaries, within our district boundaries. We'll start with item 5, consumptive use permit 8834-14, which is a cup for the city of Daytona Beach. Clay Corsi is our Director of Water Supply Planning and Assessment, and he's going to explain to us the terms of the CUP, which, as you know, in our agenda and printed online, there's been a detailed explanation of what is happening, but we're gonna review all that right now in the meeting. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Daytona Beach, as you said, is the first of 2 consumptive use permits that'll be brought before the board for consideration today. As the governing board is aware, under Mike and the chairman's leadership, we split the district up into smaller areas, focusing on accomplishing our core missions of water supply, water quality, flood protection, and natural systems. Most of you are probably aware the city of Daytona Beach is located in Volusia County. So, Jeremy, there should be a different presentation that was loaded here for Daytona Beach, because there's one, yeah. Sorry about that, Mr. Chair.
Oh, no problem. If we're ready to go on the other cup, we could do that. Just give me a direction on which one we're ready to go on.
About 30 seconds, please.
30 seconds.
All right. We're going to put a pin in this for 30 seconds.
It should be slide 3. There you go. We're back on track here.
Go ahead.
Daytona Beach is being recommended for approval of an early renewal of an existing permit due to a $15 million investment by the city to install new wells more distant from MFL water bodies located in central Volusia County that are currently in prevention, which means those water bodies are not projected to meet their MFLs over the 20-year planning horizon. As you can see on the map on the right, the city has an eastern well field, which is represented by the blue dots, and a western well field represented by the orange dots. The city is transitioning water use from the western wells to the existing and proposed eastern wells, thereby reducing impacts from withdrawals on Indian Scoggin Lake that you can see on the map there. The city projects not only substantial growth in residential, but also a substantial growth in their commercial industrial growth there. As many of you are probably aware, driving on I-95, you've seen the new Buc-ee's there that has a substantial water use for the city, along with a lot of other commercial growth that they've got coming online. The city is also committed to increasing their beneficial use of reclaimed water by making an investment of over $42 million into expanding the public access reuse system, construction of additional reclaimed water lines, and new storage tanks and pumping facilities. In addition to the reclaimed water system expansion, they have also committed to optimizing discharge of Bennett Swamp, which you can see here on the map, which is a benefit to those nearby MFL water bodies. That project also helps to eliminate discharges of reclaimed water to the Halifax River, being more beneficially used for aquifer recharge. And this permit is conditioned that if the city is unable to meet the requirements for the beneficial reuse, the permit duration and quantities will be reduced.
And what would they be reduced by if they're unable to?
It's condition number 47 in the technical staff report, and it depends on the year on when they're not able to meet the requirements. If it's in 2030, it'd be 16.78 MGD. If it was in 2035, it'd be 17.88. And if it was 2040, it would be 18.86.
That would be the amount reduced?
Now, that would be what their allocation would be.
That would be their new allocation if they
Correct.
didn't meet the standards.
Correct.
And it would happen by matter of operation. They would be automatically reduced. We wouldn't have to do anything else.
Correct. There is a little bit of a clause in there that if there was something that happened outside of their control, that we would, at the discretion, of the district, be able to give them, not cut their allocation back, say if something were to happen that was completely outside of their control with getting a project constructed.
But that would take affirmative action to stop the reduction. The board would have to take an affirmative action to stop the reduction of it assuming they didn't meet their goals, it would be reduced by by matter of the permit.
Correct.
In order to avoid the reduction, it would require a showing that there is some event that has occurred, force majeure type of situation, correct?
Correct.
All right.
The city submitted an updated water conservation plan to demonstrate that the use of water is efficient and that the city is implementing feasible water conservation measures. Highlights from the water conservation plan are shown on the screen and have resulted in a low residential per capita water use of less than 60 gallons per person per day. The photos in the bottom right are of the pipes that discharge reclaimed water into Bennett Swamp, helping to rehydrate the wetlands. Before moving on to the recommendation slide, it is important to note that the city was recently issued a permit renewal for a 20-year duration in 2020. And the best available information was used to project water use estimate demands over the permit duration at that time. We can all remember how uncertain the future appeared to be in 2020. In the 5 years since that permit was renewed, we have seen unprecedented growth in our state, and Daytona is projecting substantial growth, particularly in their commercial industrial sector, water use segments. In the next permit coming up, you'll see a little bit of an opposite of what's happening in Daytona Beach.
So before you move from this slide, I noticed that the residential per capita is 56 GPCD, which, based on what I was reading about the other permit, that's very efficient, correct?
It's very low, and it's one of the things that, in a city like Daytona, where a lot of the infrastructure is already existing and homes in place, there's not near the amount of landscape irrigation in that existing homes there that you have in some of the other areas of the district.
Right. And so the overall need for more water is really driven by the commercial growth that's happening and anticipated, correct?
It's a mixture, but the commercial is the major driver here on the growth. They've got, I believe it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 million additional square feet of commercial growth on the books that's in their development orders.
And I know it seems intuitive, but I think it's worth saying for at least the public's benefit. It certainly was for me as I become educated on these matters to do our jobs. When it's industrial or commercial versus residential, they use more water.
So what that would do on your gross per capita, you would have a higher gross per capita when you have more commercial industrial growth, because you don't have the residents to be able to use in the denominator of that equation to calculate the per capitas.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else before I move on to the next slide, Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
The recommended action for agenda item 5 for this permit is shown on the slide.
All right. First of all, I just want to compliment the city. I mean, there hasn't always been the best relationship between the district and the city. At one point, there was litigation, as I understand, like 10 years ago. And that's no way to run a railroad. And I'm not saying that to cast aspersions or blame on anybody. It's just not a way these things should happen. But that's not the nature of the relationship now, as I understand it. And I think this work that you see in these documents is a reflection of a collaborative effort, and hopefully is the beginning of a turning of a page where we work collaboratively to achieve what we all want to achieve, which is making sure there's a sufficient supply of water but that water it does not impact the environment or the rest of the state. The use of that water doesn't impact negatively our environment, and it still makes sure that there's plenty of water available for all people, not just the folks in Daytona Beach, and that our waterways and our springs and all the things that we do to all the things that this district does, that those things are maintained at appropriate levels, MFLs and so forth. So I just want to compliment the city on turning that page and to compliment our staff as well. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also like to recognize our city manager, Mr. Derek Fiatcher. And you're absolutely right, Mr. Chairman. Things has changed with Daytona because of the new leadership and leadership of our city manager, Mr. Fiatcher. I'm very happy with what they're proposing, and I'd like to move for approval.
We have a motion from an individual who knows the area very well from that area and speaks with authority on the matter. That's the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second. I have a question for Clay.
Yes, you're recognized. We have a motion and a second pending. You're recognized for questions, and then we'll do discussions also. But that's great. Go ahead.
Okay, Clay, I just want to, this has nothing really to do with what's happening here, just a general question, that the technology of improving the product of this, of this water that, of reused water, gray water, it's a developing science. Is the science of their technology, is it state of the art?
So the city can speak to that. I think they may come up here and talk a little bit about what they're doing, but depending on the utility, they may decide to go a different direction with the reclaimed water, where you'll see some doing that state of the art because it makes sense for them to go to potable reuse, right? Mm-hmm. Where you might see others where maybe it makes more sense for them to do more of a standard AWT where it goes out for reclaimed water irrigation. Right. So it's really not a one-size-fits-all approach, very utility-specific to what the customers in their service area might need.
Because the science of that over the last 30 years has started out a little sketchy, and I've witnessed that through my service on South Florida and St. John's boards, to where it's vastly improved. And the technology to go further is already there. It's just a matter of being able to afford it. So I'm glad to hear that. So thank you, Clay.
All right, and this is, I want to be flexible because these are probably one of the most important things we do, if not the most important thing we do, is making sure that the water supply is available in a way that's managed appropriately, and that it's done in a way where the water is quality water, right? And so I want to have the flexibility in our interactions with staff, make sure everybody on the board is comfortable with where we are, what has happened. So at this time, does anybody have any questions for Clay? I know we're going to have some public comment as well, which is much appreciated. Go ahead,
It's more
Mr. Atwood.
I guess it's more of a comment than a question. Yeah. And it's, I would personally, I think, benefit from some education on these issues. Mm-hmm. Like, what is a good rate for gallons per day? Like, what are we aiming for as an organization? Maybe some examples of municipalities that are like doing it really right, and like the things that they're doing to do it really right. And that way, when we read some of this, because when I first read it, it didn't read as good as like Castleberry's last month. Castleberry's like population growth, water savings. I was like, oh, okay, So I inquired a little bit about this, and then I realized I'm kind of ignorant. And so like when I read it, I didn't understand exactly what I was reading. So I think maybe a little education would go a long way.
I think it's a great idea. If we could put on the agenda for next month a step back and sort of a best practices / averages / and a review of what the what the district's goals are when it comes to these renewals. What are the markers that we're looking to achieve, the goals that we're looking to achieve, and what in examples of where our partners are being successful, and even examples where we think improvement would be in order for all involved. So if we could put that on the agenda for next time, does that sound good, Mr. Atwood?
Thank you. Yep.
All right, yeah, because again, this to me is one of the critical things that we do, if not the most critical. Eric and I were talking about what are our biggest challenges. We have biosolids we have to deal with, and all the things that come with that. We have making sure that our water supply and water quality in that supply is suitable, as well as the water quality of our environment, and those are all important things. And this is a linchpin of all of that. You're recognized, General.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too would like to know some of these terms as well, particularly what does a family use for water a day that we look at as an average. I studied this at one time. I discovered that the elephant is the most efficient use of water of any animal, 54 gallons a day. A milk cow is 150, a standard cow is 50. So when you put it all together, there's quite a lot of variance in here. It would be very good to know. I appreciate you bringing that up. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We're definitely looking for elephants. Go ahead.
Mr. Corsi, I might just also mention that when we look at these individual consumptive use permits, they also feed into a much larger system that our modelers look at throughout the entire district. And that also might be helpful in a presentation for next month, how the individual pieces are part of a much larger mosaic that you guys do model as well and do a very good job at it. So,
Right. Thank you for clarifying that. We don't want it so micro and granular that let's start with the big picture and then show how these individual permits effectuate the goals of the big picture. Correct?
correct.
All right, Madam Vice Chairman.
Mr. Chair, I think you're talking about the basic principles behind CUP, how it gets analyzed. So it will be great to know fundamentally what by law we need to be doing, what is an average we do, or all CUPs comes to the board. So I think you're talking about going to the first step and look at the whole big picture. Great idea.
Great. Yeah, so when we're looking at the big picture, we're not only looking at the big picture of what we're trying to accomplish, but also what the requirements are by law that are used when we go to accomplish those goals. The roadmap that does exist. This is a fascinating part of what the district does. I've always found, and I will tell you that I think that we do a good job as a district.
Excellent.
In terms of in this realm. We have several different partners, and it's, I love all my children, right? Not that they're children, we're partners, but you know what I'm saying. But they, they all have their different challenges, right? And today we're seeing an example of a city of Daytona Beach that that has commercial and industrial, right? That is very uniquely featured and is driving a lot of their demand. And then you turn to Clay County, which is where I'm from, and it's more of a residential situation. And so those produce two different permits, but the same rules were applied to both, and both did their jobs. Our partners in both cases did their jobs in ways, in my estimation, that were consistent with they're doing their part. So that's all good. Did you have a
Next
yes?
permit, I'll have a comment.
Right. Okay. All right. Anyone? No more questions right now, so let's go ahead and go to public comment, and then we may have some questions for the presenters.
The first commenter is Eric Smith with the City of Daytona Beach.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the governing board. My name's Eric Smith. I'm the Deputy Utilities Director for the City of Daytona Beach. Today I'm joined by our City Manager, Mr. Derek Fiecher, and our Utilities Director, Ms. Shannon Ponitz. We just want to take the opportunity to thank you for your consideration today. We started this process in March of 2023, and Mr. Chair, you said it perfectly. We've greatly enjoyed the partnership and the collaboration that we've shared with the district over the past 2.5 years to get to today. We started this process to address the rapid growth that the city was seeing at the time and is continuing to see to today. And from the beginning, the district staff made it known that the two critical things for this cup were addressing the MFLs and the beneficial reuse. So as Mr. Corsi demonstrated a little bit ago, the city is committed to, and that's what we're here today to reaffirm that commitment to meet those goals, starting with the MFLs, that $15 million shift over the course of this permit from shifting the wellfield optimization from the west to the east. We're already working on a scope with one of our consultants that, if approved today, will allow us to take that to our commission to start phase 1 of shifting those wells. And that will see a 1-foot benefit to the Indian Lake MFL. And then for beneficial reuse, the city has been taking great strides over the past several years to increase our beneficial reuse. And in continuing with that step, again, we've engaged one of our consultants for developing a scope to help us meet the goals outlined in this cup, as well as the requirements of Senate Bill 64. Again, that's projected to be over a $40 million investment by the city to meet those goals. And ultimately, this approval of the cup today will allow the city and our residents, again, give us that comfortability that none of these projects happen overnight or quickly. They take years to develop. So this will give us the tools that we need to fully plan for the future. So again, we appreciate your time and your consideration today, and be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
Just want to say that it's home to NASCAR.
It is home to NASCAR.
I just had to give NASCAR a shout out.
Well, and they're a big user.
Yes, sir, they are.
And a big economic driver for our area. So we want to make sure that they have the water that they need to be successful. No doubt. Anything else from the city? The only thing I would say on behalf of the board is that if you could please share with your commission. My understanding is you report directly to the commission, right? It's not an independent district, correct?
Correct.
They're concerned about rates, as we all are, right? We have to vote every year on a property tax level, and that's always a controversial matter because everybody's worried about taxation. Your commission, I'm sure, has to deal with utility rates and customers complaining about why are they going up and all this kind of stuff. We understand that. We really do. What I want to share with the commission, if they were here, I would tell them this, but I just ask you, is that the investments that you're proposing that they make that are conditioned in this permit, right, are investments that will make sure that in the long run, those rates do not skyrocket. In other words, it's a win-win. Not only does it help the environment, but it will ultimately save money over time, save obligations down the road that will arise that will be much higher than they would be if those investments were not made. So what I hope they take from this is how much we appreciate the collaboration and the fact that making these investments will actually save money and save taxpayer money over time.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On Florida.
Hi, Chris.
Hey, good morning, Chair Bradley, members of the governing board. Chris Farrell with Audubon, Florida. Appreciate the opportunity to comment on this cup. I'm going to give a few comments they relate to the cup. They also relate to our comments on the North Florida Regional Water Supply Plan, and what we hope to see happen with all the cups and our efforts to move water supply forward in North Florida. First, about reuse. We love reuse. We want to see our water reused in a beneficial manner. I would just stress that the water recharge elements, like for the swamp, that's great. Potable reuse is a new thing that's coming up, is great. We would like to see more of that rather than the irrigation systems for new development that kind of propagates, keep going this really resource intensive and unsustainable way that we've been building our neighborhoods for the last few decades. So we would love to see more recharge rather than irrigation. Also mentioned the city's reuse targets.
Chris,
Yeah,
can I interrupt you?
Sure.
Because I mean this not as a challenge, I just as a matter of education. Could you kind of drill down on what you mean by, because you're saying that all reuse is not the same.
correct.
Okay.
So
Could you
yeah.
drill down on what the problem that you perceive? I sense it too, and it's not just sensing it. I read about it, and we have experts who tell me about it. But what's the issue with the because everyone acts like reuse is this end all be all on the irrigation front, and I think we're now starting to see that's not always the case. Could you kind of explore that a little bit?
Yeah, specifically for the
Irrigation.
Yeah, going out to neighborhoods and using reuse to irrigate them. The way we've been building our neighborhoods with these large areas of turf grass, there's several things I'll go through quickly. We're getting rid of a lot of shrubs and native habitats that support our wildlife. If we mixed in, my yard in particular, I took out almost, the vast majority of sod that was given to me. I have native shrubs. I don't irrigate except for when I plant something new. I don't use any fertilizer. And unlike there's a lot of people who do native plants and they do these wildflower meadows and they look a little crazy. Nobody knows, even like the native plant people who've come to work on my yard go, I didn't realize you had a native plant yard. So there are ways of doing this where it can look like traditional HOA manicured lawns, but we just don't have to put all the fertilizer and irrigation on them.
And your point is that we're encouraging the old way, the St. Augustine grass, non-native plants, by making this omnipresent availability of irrigation. Is that your point?
That is one of them.
All right.
And pumping the water, it's like 20% of our electricity use in the United States is pumping water. It's really amazing, and that has with it its own pollution and
I got you. Right. And let nature run its course and have natives, and you don't having the pumping and energy cost either.
We save energy, we lower pollution,
Okay.
we provide more habitat.
Sure.
And the reuse targets are good, and it was mentioned. There are some clauses, though, where they can still keep the water and maybe not meet the targets. I would just say that it's in the permit, it says, like, if they demonstrate they did their due diligence and that factors outside the city's control were responsible. So maybe just some effort to define what that language means, what factors are in and out of their control, what would due diligence and trying to move forward with this look like, so that we understand the decisions that the board would eventually have to make. The per capita is interesting. It's good that the residential is somewhat lower. It's a little surprising how high some of the commercial is. Overall, from a couple years ago, they were estimating 130 gallons per day, and now in this permit it says 145. So it's just a little different than a lot of the other cups we've looked at, where they might be asking for more, but they've shown overall their per capita use is going down. This one bucks that trend a little, so that's just something that should be investigated. What can we do to bring that down? Another thing I would say to that is any new residential growth that goes in definitely avoid that those high water intense turf grass areas. And then the last thing I'll mention, we've talked about this before a few times. The tiered rate structures, I think, are a great thing for local governments to do to try to get people away from luxury uses and make them realize how valuable this water is, so that they don't just use it to irrigate, half acre of St. Augustine. But that frequently gets people just to call the well company as soon as they see those first couple bills, and then they get their own private well to do their own irrigation. And some of those are superficial, maybe not so horrible, even though that's getting questionable these days. Some of them go down a lot farther into water supplies that the district and local government should be paying attention to. And now they have a well going in that doesn't have to be permitted, and they don't have really good data on the water that's being used. So we just don't want to chase people off of something where we have accountability into everybody having their own private wells that don't have as much accountability. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Yeah, and that's why I asked those questions earlier. You can sit down, do whatever you want, but I wasn't going to engage in question and answer unless you had another question, or a comment. But yeah, that's why I asked the questions earlier about what the burden, basically, kind of a lawyer ask who has the burden, right? And as we understand it, and as it's been represented, and as the permit says, it happens by operation. In other words, if the standards aren't met, then the amount of water that they can take goes down. Now, if they can meet the burden of showing that some force majeure thing has happened, then they can come forward and do so, and then we will take that into consideration and make our judgments. But it's their burden, not ours. And that's been made clear. So, all right. So, are there any other public comments? Okay. We've done our public comment period. Does anyone have any? I'm sorry. Did someone raise their hand? Are you sure? We're happy to. Oh, okay. We got fun. All right. We look forward to the presentation. All right. No more public comment on this particular item. Are there any further items are there any further things to discuss by any of the board members, or any questions by any of the board members? All right. I'm going to go ahead and, just to make sure that everything's done in order, that if somebody were to challenge it, they would not have a leg to stand on. Could we do a motion now that we've heard everything to approve the cup?
So you'd like for me to read the motion?
Go ahead.
Yes,
Oh,
I had that there is a motion on the floor.
I know, but I'm saying we're
Okay.
going to do it again.
Okay, good.
That's what he's saying.
Now that we've heard everything,
Yeah.
and we've heard all the evidence and all the testimony and all of the public testimony and had our discussions, is there a motion?
I'll
Wait,
make-
hold on, Mike.
I was just going to have them bring up staff recommendation again if they could. Then you could just reference
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Ms.
All right,
Gabby,
go ahead.
on that.
Sorry.
No, I was.
Bring
gonna-
up the staff recommendation, please.
Yes. Would you like for me to read the recommendation?
No, we
or
don't need
it's
to do
okay?
that. Just,
Okay,
we have in front of us for the record, requested action on agenda item 5. Is there a motion to approve agenda item 5?
Yes, sir. There's a motion to move agenda item number 5.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Yes.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? The motion is approved unanimously. Thank you. All right, we're going to now move to do this one more time. Item number 6. That's Clay County Utility Authority, CUP 416-52. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the final consumptive use permit I have for your consideration today, Clay County Utility Authority. It's been a while since, this is not the right one again. Sorry about that, Mr. Chair.
It's okay. We should do a walkthrough, like on Broadway. Night before, just.
In an effort to give you the latest and greatest, we have the last minute changes that didn't apparently get picked up whenever we made the changes to the presentation.
That's it.
There we go.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeremy. Ready to go, Mr. Chair? It's been a while since we've had a large permit come before the board for a project in the North Florida Regional Water Supply Partnership area. This is a region where we have multiple MFLs that are in recovery. The Black Creek Water Resource Development Project will ensure that the upper Florida aquifers recharge and minimum flows and levels for Lakes Brooklyn and Geneva will be met for the 20-year planning horizon and beyond. In 2015, the Florida Department of Environmental Protection adopted minimum flows for the lower Santa Fe and Itchituttony River and associated outstanding Florida springs. As part of that effort, special rules were put in place in this area for both uses in the Suwannee and St. Johns River Water Management District that limit existing and renewed permits that might have impacts on those water bodies. Any permit being renewed that has an impact on these water bodies is limited to a 5-year duration. CCUA is a publicly owned utility that provides potable water, reclaimed water, and wastewater services in Clay and a small portion of Duval County. CCUA service area is approximately 260 square miles and is outlined in purple on the map. As you can see on the slide, CCUA has a 80% beneficial reuse in 2024 and will be at a minimum of 93% in 2045. And residential per capita is also low for this area at 70 gallons per person per day. Just a little bit of information on the last renewal of CCUA and how that impacts what's happening today. As it was last renewed in 2007. Most of us remember the growth that was happening in the state of Florida at that time prior to the economic downturn in 2008. Those of us that were in the engineering sector at that time were extremely busy here in the state of Florida due to a number of factors, including the projecting of water use that was 20 years ago, right before the economic downturn of 2008, as well as CCA doing a great job increasing beneficial reuse of reclaimed water and with the water conservation efforts that they've taken on. That's one of those are the main reasons why we have a 44% reduction over what was previously issued. You can see on the slide that CCUA are project participants in the Black Creek Water Resource Development Project, and they've contributed almost $7.3 million to date for operation and maintenance and construction of that project. As I mentioned earlier, permit renewals in the North Florida Partnership area that impact the MFO water bodies in the Suwannee River Water Management District are limited to a 5-year duration. A condition has been added to this permit that would increase the duration and allocation if CCUA meets those requirements, and that's related to the project that John Fitzgerald mentioned in his proclamation for Reclaimed Water Use Week. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to answer any questions, and the request for agenda item 6 is shown on the screen.
All right, let's begin again with the manner of flexibility here. Does anybody have any questions for Clay at this time? Anybody have any comments at this time?
Yeah,
You're recognized.
Yes, thank you. Just a couple of things. First of all, I really am impressed with the way this permit is structured to deal with both short-term and long-term problems, opportunities, and to create incentives to resolve those opportunities. So congratulations to the staff and to Clay County for working so constructively together on that. The second thing that I'd like to bring up is that I think that, as you saw on the previous slide, I think increasingly we're going to be hearing about the North Florida Water Plan, and increasingly we're going to see the lines blur between what we're trying to do in the St. John's district and what they're trying to do over in Sewanee and protecting the springs over on the river over there. I think it might be beneficial for the staff to kind of get an update, refresher on the background on all of that, so that we can sort of steer these permits and these issues towards tying in with what we want to accomplish there. So I just like to put that on the table, Mr. Chairman, for a future session with the staff or with the board.
Well, that's perfectly said, Ms. Price. As a matter of fact, in full disclosure, I had the same exact thought that you had. After this meeting, I'm going to be sitting down, and I encourage anybody else to do this too on the board, to sort of go back to and understand where we are on the North Florida project that has been discussed today. How much is it going to cost? What are our options? How does this impact our consideration of these CUPs down the road, and where does it fit into that puzzle? What are our duties vis-a-vis the people that we represent, as well as the Sewanee, and all of the above. And I would love to do that as a group, right? I just did it just because I had the same thoughts that you did. So what I would like to do is in the 2 meetings from now, not the next one, because the next one we're going to have our hands full. Well, actually, why don't we flip it? Next month, I would like to talk about North Florida. The month after that, because I think it's going to inform our CUP discussion. Let's do our discussions on the CUP. All right? And because this to me, we're starting to see the picture emerge, right? And the questions are starting to be called.
Exactly.
And that is, how are we going to do this, right?
Yeah.
And one of the questions that questions that is going to need to be answered, and then that's an answer that's going to come from us, our friends in Sewanee, and all the utilities, is how are we going to deal with the requirements of law to make sure that there is an appropriate water supply and that water is delivered in a way that it is of quality. And that and by the way, we have some recovery that we have to do while we're at it because of things that have happened in the past that now the data shows that we have to rectify and return to its state that God created, right? So those are and something has to give, and this costs money.
A lot of money.
And yeah, that's there's no free lunches. But the law is designed. Our system is designed so that we're the ones that have to call these questions because we give these permits out, right? That's how the system's set up. And we do that in conjunction with the DEP, and we do that in conjunction with our utility partners, and they are true partners. Understand, these guys, Clay County Utility had to pay $8 million to participate in the Black Creek project. But by the way, it's the best $8 million ever spent because not only are the lakes going to get filled up, but now everybody's MFLs are met in the area. So win-win.
Great win.
But it required leadership from the district to bring all those parts together because that's how the system's set up, right?
Right.
And for us collectively as a board to make wise decisions about these things and do it in a very transparent. These are all very transparent things. We welcome discussion. We want Chris and our environmental community partners and our commercial partners and the people who want to develop, and everybody come to the table because we're all going to pay. So, anyway, thank you. We're going to do that next month, and then the month after that, we're going to do what Mr. Atwood has suggested. And I think the two are going to fit hand in glove in terms of a discussion. Does anybody have anything to add or on that? All right, thank you, Ms. Price. All right, we have some public comments, and go ahead.
Yes, sir. Jeremy Johnston with Clay County Utility Authority is here to speak on this one.
Good morning, Chairman and Governing Board members. Thank you on behalf of our Board of Supervisors, the opportunity to come and speak before you this morning. I begin by recognizing the staff with St. John's. It's been a real pleasure to work collaboratively with them. This has been several years worth of effort to bring this renewal application to you. We went through numerous different sessions, problem solving, et cetera, to bring this application to bear as it's presented today. This renewal effort also led to the North Florida projects effort, which was mentioned by John Fitzgerald and Clay in their presentation. CCUA was a facilitator of that particular effort between DEP, Swanee, St. John's, JEA, GRU, St. John's County Utility, and CCUA. And we do support that effort. We stand 150% behind that report, and we remain committed to advancing those efforts because that North Florida effort does truly enable the state of Florida to move water where there are supplies to where there are deficits, which will really allow the state of Florida to manage water resources in perpetuity for the growing population and supporting agriculture and protecting the natural resources that we all cherish. But CCUA isn't just standing there. You saw a little bit in that presentation about Project Quench. That is our pilot project for potable reuse that's at our Mid-Clay facility. I'd like to personally extend an invitation to every one of you to come see this facility. It is state-of-the-art. It's using an activated carbon multi-barrier system to treat reclaimed water to pretty close to purified standards. And we are sampling over 250 different parameters to ensure that everyone has confidence in the ultimate product of the water coming out of that system. As we direct reclaimed water into the potable system, we are also beginning to work on reservoir systems to leverage stormwater management for redirecting that for lower quality water for irrigation for those uses of water. So thank you for considering this renewal application. We think this is a solid approach for the future of Clay County and also continuing our commitment for the betterment and protection of the resources in Northeast Florida. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Does anybody have any questions for Jeremy? So, unlike the city, which is they report to the elected city government, right? Jeremy is the executive director of an appointed board, and they have an independent special district in Clay County, and they do a great job in terms of being a leader on reuse. And to me, some of the initial reuse projects, some of the great things and even some of the improvements have been sort of played out in real time in Clay County. And they're also kind of leading on this turning the reuse into drinkable water can be controversial. I think it probably is something that needs to be done over time, let's face it, on that front too. So, and you saw their numbers kind of speak for themselves. I mean, they're going lower. Chris made the point earlier about, well, the other one's going higher, and it seems inconsistent with some of these other ones. I kind of had the same reaction, quite frankly. But I think that can be largely explained by some of the discussion that we had earlier about the fact that because Daytona is so there's so commercial and industrial focused, and Clay County is so residential focused, that explains sort of the disparity and why the numbers turned out. And Jeremy doesn't zone. and Daytona doesn't zone. He's responding to what the needs are, right? And the needs are residential, and so it produces what it produces. So, anyway, anybody have any questions? All right, thanks. Any other? Yes, sir. All right, that was the only public comment. Is there? This is the area I have the little district for, so I would tell you that I think this is a good deal.
Move for approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's approved unanimously. Thank you. All right, let's go to item 7, consideration of no-cost time extensions, the old no-cost time extensions.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the
All right,
board.
Lou, I hope they have a good excuse, you know?
My
Put
name is,
everybody else to the ringer today, I mean.
all right,
Go
my
ahead.
name is Lou D'Angelo, Cost Share Program Manager in the Bureau of Basin Management and Project Development. Today, I'll be presenting an item for consideration to approve a no-cost time extension for the city of DeLand. The DeLand Reclaimed Water Main Extension Phase 5 is a water supply project located in the CSEC Water Supply Planning Region. The DeLand project consists of the expansion of their reclaim system and the construction of a booster pump station. Installation of the reclaimed water main and distribution network is complete. And in fact, that system is being operated and its benefits are being realized. The booster pump station was delayed due to design changes necessitated by traffic safety issues, requiring the city to purchase additional land. The city has secured that property and has obtained all requisite permits. Therefore, the city is requesting a 6-month, no-cost time extension to December 31st, 2025 to complete the construction of the pump station. And that brings me back to the item for consideration before you today. I have representatives here from the city of DeLand, here to answer any questions, and we look for your vote.
Can take over. So, any question for Lou? I know I have a question. Is this the first time they're asking for this time extension?
No, this would be the second time,
That's what I thought.
yes. And the acquisition of the land and getting the requisite permits took longer than anticipated
This time.
this time.
And the last time was
I think it was all related to this same
all the
subject
same.
because,
And it's only 6 months, no more, right?
right. Actually, they probably could do even less, but we did 6 months to allow some more
Okay.
buffer. They're in the 80 to 90% complete.
So okay. So,
And-
so, do we inspect projects? Like, is this?
We go out monthly
Got
to,
it.
to go out there and take a look at their efforts. But like I said, their reclaim system is active, it's operational, and we're receiving our benefits. It's the booster pump station, which is an auxiliary piece that still needs to be constructed.
Thank you, Lou.
Yeah.
A motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve and a second. They passed the test. That was a high standard that has been met. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is approved unanimously. We appreciate our partnership with the city of DeLand. Thank you for coming to us and explaining to us and keeping us in the loop as to where these things are, and we want to be good partners. So, good job.
Thank you.
All right. Item 8, district's prescribed fire program.
All right. Burn, baby, burn.
When we want it to.
This is what the board, to give some perspective, we talked about this program and we decided to give a presentation collectively. because not everybody does this in the world. And, it can somehow, it's controversial in certain jurisdictions, but not here, baby. You're recognized.
All right, thank you. Yep. Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. I'm Jeremy Olson and serve as Program Manager for the Bureau of Land Resources. Here today to present an overview on the district's prescribed burn program. This presentation, as you mentioned, was requested in January by Ms. Giabi White. So quick overview of what I'll be discussing. Start with what is prescribed fire, why it's important, some of the challenges our fire program is facing, and then we'll finish up with some of the major components of our program that we're using to face these challenges. So what is prescribed fire? It's the use of carefully planned fire purposely set under stringent conditions by a team of fire experts. A big objective of these burns we're doing here at the district is to remove hazardous wildland fuels. So we're doing these burns on our terms. We're picking weather and conditions that make these fires easier to contain. We're making sure we have personnel and equipment on site to where we can make sure they're keeping in the box. A good example of that's in the picture. This is our Fort Drum Conservation Area in Indian River County. That's the turnpike there. You can see some power lines paralleling the turnpike. Our burn boss picked a great day to burn this unit, in that you see the flames and the embers and the smoke are all blowing away from the road and other infrastructure. A good thing with this burn is if lightning happens to strike this block a year, 2 years afterwards, there's not enough fuel to sustain a wildfire. So this prescribed fire will prevent wildfires from starting. Not only do they help prevent wildfires, but they can help suppress wildfires that are spreading from surrounding lands. This map here shows just that situation that happened on our Seminole Ranch Conservation Area in Brevard County. That red hatched area was a wildfire that started in June, right there near 46, spread south and ran into two previous prescribed burns we had done. That green hatched area we'd burned 3 months prior. The orange outlined area we'd burned 3 years prior. And so once that wildfire hit these areas, it basically ran out of fuel and got a lot easier to contain. Another major objective of our burns we do here at the district is ecology. And I could talk for days about this. It's a really, far-reaching topic, but I'll keep it short. This state was shaped by fire. We get a lot of lightning strikes here. They've been starting fires for thousands of years. That's just the way of life here. We've got a lot of natural ecosystems that naturally burned every 2 to 4 years. And so the plants and animals that evolved here not only learned to tolerate fire, but they depend on it for their existence. This picture is from J.P. Hall Bayard Conservation Area in Clay County. That purple flowering plant is Bartram's ixia, which is a Florida state endemic and endangered plant, and it is really relying on fire. It only flowers after disturbances such as fire, and so if you take that, that disturbance off the landscape, this plant will eventually blink out. We don't want that to happen on our watch. So getting to the challenges, one of the big ones we're facing is the increase in wildland-urban interface in the state. And so get a lot of people moving here. It's a great place to live. I don't blame them, but with those new residents come new roads, new houses, new hospitals, things like that. And so we're really good at keeping our fires on our lands, but smoke is another story. And so we're having to look way downwind and make sure that we're not influencing our neighbors in a bad way. A good example of this urban interface growth is at our Julington Urban Preserve in Duval County. On the left is 1994. You can see south and east of the preserve is basically undeveloped. Those could have served as potential smoke sheds if we were burning at that time. Fast forward to 2022, the preserve is basically surrounded by development now. And so that makes us change our tactics to where we have to really be careful with the weather and then generally burn smaller blocks each day so we're not putting that volume of smoke in the air causing issues. Another challenge we face is dealing with long unburned areas. The district's done a great job acquiring land over the years. We own and manage over 433,000 acres at this point. Some of those lands were brought to us in really good shape. The previous landowners were burning on a consistent basis. Those are easy to roll into our program. Other areas, on the other hand, went decades without fire, and they can cause problems. This duff accumulation builds up in there. All that fuel over the years builds up. And so when we light that on fire, sometimes it'll smolder for days, weeks, even months at a time after that initial burn and can cause some big headaches for us. Okay, jump into the major components of our fire program that we use to deal with these challenges. We've got outreach, equipment, district contracts, partnerships, and district staff. I'll jump into each of these in more detail, starting with outreach. So we have a really consistent outreach program here at the district. Our Office of Communications sends out notices prior to every burn we do, describing where we're burning, but more importantly, why we're burning. So every time they're getting that message out there. And so these new residents that are moving into the state, they're going to get exposed to that message. We also have staff that attend outreach events, festivals, things like that. This is Amy Copeland, one of our land managers in the picture, talking to the neighbors, making sure they know why we are catching our land on fire on purpose. Another big component is our fire-related equipment. So we have 7 brush trucks, 2 water tenders, 4 dozer plows, 3 Marshmasters, and then a bunch of ATVs, UTVs, and airboats. So some of this equipment is important for ignition and mop up, kind of the expected operation, based on the forecast. But a lot of this equipment we will have on the fire line just in case. And so as you know, the weatherman isn't always exactly correct. And so if we have some of those surprises throughout the day, we're ready. We've got that equipment there ready to go to deal with those situations. We also rely on contracts pretty heavily with our operations. So we have helicopter vendors on contract that help with aerial ignition with some of our bigger burns, like in the picture here. We use them for suppression as well. We also have several companies that we use where we can call them to get additional staff and equipment the day of the burn. So if we see a good burn day coming 2-3 days out in the future, we can call these companies and augment our crews. We always use district staff as the burn boss, leadership positions, that's always us, but we can use them to fill in. We also use contracts to help prepare these units, so vegetation management, mowing, roller chopping, things like that to make them easier to burn. Another component is partnerships, and so we have an interagency agreement with other entities and NGOs that allows us to help them and them to help us. And so if we have a really complicated unit that's, requires more staff, more equipment than we have access to, we can reach out to them and kind of gang up on these units and get them done. Conversely, when they call for our help, we send equipment and staff their way. That just happened earlier this year out at Merritt Island National Wildlife Refuge with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So that's the picture from that burn. Went off really well. But by far our biggest asset is our dedicated staff. So in the Bureau of Land Resources, we have 39 staff members, 37 of which are fire trained. Of those 37, we have 18 certified burn managers, also known as burn bosses. These are the ones that are certified to lead the burns. We're in a really good spot in our Bureau as well, in that we have over 10 years of district experience on average in our Bureau. And so, these people have seen a lot of fire, which is comforting when you're out there, dealing with these burns that might be giving you a little issue here and there. All right, so here's how to get the video to play. Okay. All right, so it's a picture at this point. This is from our Loch Loosa Wildlife Conservation Area in Alachua County. We've done a ton of work out there. It really is a success story in that it did have some really long unburned fuels when we first acquired it. And we've been able to get a lot of fire on that landscape. It's over 10,000 acres, so it's good size. It has a lake in the middle, which makes it pretty easier to burn, in that we have a smoke shed to where we can keep pushing that smoke. And then it's surrounded by conservation easements on the sides. And so some of those urban interface issues we're dealing with at places like Julington, Durban are not the case here. And so we've been able to burn big, burn on a lot of weather conditions, and really make a difference for this area. Here's a graph showing the last 31 years of fire history. Here at the district, you can see we've exceeded 50,000 acres twice during that period. You can see other years where we didn't even come close to that number, and that's mainly due to weather. And so if we can have our personnel, our equipment, our partnerships, all that stuff lined up, but if the weather doesn't show up, we're not going to strike a match that day. You can also see the trend line showing that we are trending up with our acreage per year, which is remarkable given the the additional urban interface and things that we're dealing with. Here's a snapshot of this fire season so far. So we've done 21 burns for just short of 26,000 acres so far. That graph on the right, the red line of that graph is this year. Right there, just short of 26,000 acres. You may notice that most of our acres, almost all these years, are between January and April, and so those are really the months where the weather lines up to where we can make those big burns happen. And then between now and the end of the year, we'll continue to burn. We might get another 5,000 acres, have about a 30,000 acre burn year this year. On the left, there's a map showing where these burns have occurred so far this year. And on the south, you see those bigger triangles, that signifies bigger burns, and those are some of those big marsh burns that were done. One of them was 8,000 acres in one day.
Is that dashboard online?
It's not, no, it's just something we use.
Should it be?
I mean, it's something that we could see about getting out there so that the public's more informed about the work we're doing from a land management standpoint. I think it'd be valuable.
Yeah, it's really honestly been a motivating tool for staff. Seeing the lines go up, it's great to visually see where we're at and compared to past years. So we look at it.
If you could send out an email or something about pros and cons of that. I don't know. There may be some negative. I haven't thought it through. But anyway.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman.
All right. So
yes, you're recognized.
Can we go back
Yeah.
2 slides?
2 slides.
This one right here. Yep. I think this could be even. It's a good graph. I like it.
Mhm.
Could it be even better though if it was a relative percent of land holdings that you're showing on this line?
Mhm.
Because we know that the land holdings have gone up over the last 20 years, I'm sure.
Right.
To some degree, but that graph doesn't really factor that in. So, how much of an increase are we doing compared to the amount of land we hold?
No, that's a good point.
Yeah, rather than total acres, put on the X percentage. And if you could include that in the slide deck for our hydrologic report next month.
Okay.
Even though it's not, well, it kind of. It was water. Putting out the fire.
All right. So even with all the prescribed.
Hold on 1 second.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I have a couple of questions here. Number one, I'd like to know how expensive this program is. How much does it cost us? Number two, have you thought about, Jeremy, to use drone to kind of bring us some snapshots of before, after on a project? I think it's makes it like you're there and you see the program.
Right.
I know we use the drones for our projects, but this is also is part of our projects. Sometimes we build things vertically, sometimes we have to do prescribed burns. So if something that you want to consider, but I think how much does it cost us? it's a question that I have in general, so I know
Right.
probably you don't have that answer, so.
No, and it is variable, so that economy of scale is important for fires. So those big marsh burns we're doing down south, they are really economical because, you know, it's a helicopter flying around. We're holding on a lot of times natural breaks that we didn't have to spend a bunch of money. You know, the St. Johns River, big canals, things like that, that we didn't have to spend money on. The flip side is small burns that are near development, where we've got to put really good lines in and staff heavy. Those burns are much more expensive, and so it really depends on where we're going.
So I think in general, the program, I'd like to know how much the cost versus,
Mhm.
you know.
Okay.
I mean, that can be, you can send us an email. with
Well,
the
I
answer.
know, let's go ahead and put in an agenda item for next month that we're not only going to have the new, go ahead and we can take it out of the hydraulic report and put the new X on the percentage of land. And to Ryan's point, we'd love a cool drone video. I
Yeah.
think they
We were
exist.
close this time. It just
Sounds like
didn't play.
they exist in the world.
They do,
correct?
yes.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
And then let's do a budget review of this area of the budget. And that will be all one agenda item
Okay. Sounds
next
good.
month. Thank you.
All right. So even with the prescribed fires that we're doing in the state, you know, the state burns collectively over 2 million acres a year with other agencies as well. We're still going to have wildfires, right? We can't prevent them all. The good thing is these skills and these partnerships that we develop on these prescribed fires translate really well to wildfire management. And so we've already made these contacts with our other agencies. We know our radios work with one another, all those things. And so it makes us much more effective when we're dealing with emergencies like wildfires. Our staff are often tapped to help with Florida Forest Service here in Florida. But then we also have staff that go out west every year to assist with wildfires out in California, Oregon, places like that. This picture is an all Florida crew, and sometimes our staff can kind of blend in with the rest of them. But this one, that's Brent Keith wearing his district blue, standing out like a sore thumb. But he was out there representing us on that fire, so really, really proud of him. So, yes, sir.
Yeah, it was that the Pacific Palisades fire that he was out there for?
No, it wasn't. No, this was several years ago that he was out there. Yeah.
If they had done prescribed burning around Pacific Palisades, they
Mhm.
would still have a city.
Right. Yeah. So it is. It's you know all those it's advantageous, right? That legwork ahead of time can really pay off.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, this is a incredibly important. If you're wondering why is the water management district dealing with prescribed burns, because that seems like something you do on uplands, it's because the district manages significant swaths of land, and that those lands are protected from development because they're conservation lands, and they have value in terms of watersheds and making sure that when there's flooding, there's places for water to go, and all of the things that, all the advantageous benefits of all the benefits of having conservation land. The district owns those, and so it's on those lands that in our job as in managing those lands that where we find ourselves being involved in prescribed burns. So,
yeah.
One comment.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
After providing flood protection, number one, that's the reason we were created, and providing high-quality water, I think prescribed burns are the third most important tool for the quality of Florida and the environment that Florida produces. Without it, everything else has problems. We've got to burn. We've got to continue to be as aggressive as we can while we can, because we're growing so fast. This tool is going to be more and more expensive and difficult to move around more of an urbanized environment. So while we can, where we can, we need to burn. It's a great tool for future water quality and in the environment of Florida. We got to protect it and preserve it while we can.
Which is why I think Mr. Atwood's chart that he's looking for, I think, is relevant to our analysis of this, because what I want to try to figure out, and I think that that's where he's coming from and others may be coming from, is you perhaps too, based on your comments, is, you know, are we doing this enough? Are we investing appropriately in this endeavor? Because of all the reasons that you're describing, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah,
And I think it's everything. I mean, you just have to, we don't even have to look very far. We can look in our own country to see what happens when you don't get ahead of this as your state and area develop.
Mr. Chairman, I think the crew that Mike has here is second to none. We just need to turn them loose and let them run. They're very good at it. We really are blessed to have the crew that Mike's got here. And I'm all in favor of giving them the assets they need to do as much as they can do.
I think we just got a new truck, didn't we? No, but didn't we?
We did, yes.
I mean, my recollection is we literally just got a new.
Yes,
I
we
saw
did.
the shiny new. I remember when we put that in the budget. It was exciting. Anyway, looks good. Looks good. Nice logo. New logo. Not the old one. Not the Epcot logo. All right. Yeah. Go.
Yeah, I just would like to add on to Doug's comment from the private timberland owner's perspective and acknowledge that it has really become increasingly difficult to use prescribed burns because of the many constraints that are well-intended. So we do need to keep this in the toolbox as long as we can and be on the lookout for what may or may not be policies that might be well-intended but tie our hands. At the same time, other methodology might be available. And so some collaboration with private timberland owners is always an open door, and especially through these groups that you partner with the state. I believe there's still some links there to share learnings and techniques and how you deal with dealing with these sensitive lands in a way that preserves their attributes but recognizes the risks that have to be managed for adjacent or nearby landowners or highways or what have you.
That's correct. I'd just like to just recognize that the true expertise that I don't think most people understand regarding prescribed fires and how you keep them from not becoming wildfires, the challenges with urbanization around us, that you don't want the fire to go one way, but the smoke has to go another, and then where that smoke goes is also an extreme challenge because there's certain areas that it can't go. Right. And then as urbanization comes around us, it just makes it tougher and tougher. So kudos to the land management team and the fire guys on what they have to do, because it's really a very, one, it's dangerous. Two, it's really a technical challenge. And then the times that you can do it, again, like you mentioned, weather changes so quick and the conditions, the window of wind and moisture is very tight when you can actually, safely burn. So I think, the fact that we have such expertise on our staff to be able to do this with district staff is something that's undervalued. I don't know if it's undervalued, but I just don't think we understand as much about it and know the true techniques. And they're extensive, and but I'm glad to see that we've got that staff.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we have a great team.
Well, I know it's incredibly dangerous and perilous. There's been things that have happened in Florida, tragedies that have occurred when it hasn't been managed appropriately. Horrible things. And we rely on our fire bosses to make sure that that is not on our watch. And anyway, so, when someone tells you about, complaining about government and paying government employees and all this kind of stuff, or, remind them of these people.
Yeah.
One last comment, sir. That's one of the coolest pictures I've seen in a long time. By the way.
Thank you.
I really like that.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We
I
have
appreciate you.
one comment on this one. Mr. Farrell would like to comment on this item.
Hello, Chris Farrell, Audubon, Florida. At the risk of further inflating the ego of your land management staff, I would also like to add some praise for the great work they do. I go on a lot of the land management reviews for district properties, and I would say the single most impressive thing you do land management wise is your burning and the commitment to burning. And especially, like you've said, it's getting tougher and tougher. The constraints on burning are getting real. Ironically, that's what makes it even more of a public health importance because we do have so many people living so close to these areas. And I would like to quickly mention, the great thing environmentally about these burns. Throughout Florida, we probably have a dozen cities that claim to be the lightning capitals of the world. We have a lot of lightning in Florida. Our habitats and ecosystems throughout Florida they're considered pyrogenic. They need fire. Without fire, they disappear. We lose species, we lose habitats, we lose ecosystems. Things are gonna burn at some point. So again, public health, we need to make sure that we don't have too much fuel out there. But we need to keep that burning going to the Bartram Zixia. Nobody else in the world can go see that flower, and we have it right down the road here at Bayard. So it's just really wonderful for all the scrub and the pinelands and uplands, and also the pictures of marsh. People don't realize how important the fires out in the marsh. I know it's down in South Florida, but I used to live down there, and watching the fires burn across the Everglades, it's a pretty cool thing to go witness. But it's really important for all the wildlife that lives out there, and so it's just great part of your management, and I fully support all the work the district's doing. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move to item 9. Mr. Jenkins is going to give us an update on our 2 big projects.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, board members. Well, I'm going to pile on too, and it's because the Bureau of Land Resources is in my division, and it's just a great group of people. They're so dedicated to everything they do with respect to land management, and they do a great job in these prescribed burns. You heard Jeremy say that 37 of the 39 staff members are trained in fire, and they love to do it too. I mean, it's something that they really enjoy doing. They do it really well, and it's an honor to have them in the division. So I just want to mention that before I get going here. Okay, so it's good to be back. Another month, another discussion on the water resource development projects, our 2 greatest regionally significant water resource development projects, Crane Creek, Black Creek. And Madam Vice Chair, last month you requested that we would, do something that shows a little bit of time lapse or before and after. So your wish is our command. So this go around, we're going to do some of that. So let's get going. Crane Creek, as you can see by the construction progress bars, it's done. We've got a few items cleaning up, a few things, punch list items. The only thing we're waiting on right now, we need power at 3 locations. We need power at the Weir. We need power at the east and west pump stations. It's all ready to flip the switch. We're just going to wait on FPL to finally do that, and we expect that all to happen in the next couple weeks. So this, as far as this update goes, this might be the last time I talk to you about it. So we're happy to see that. I thought it might be a good idea that it's been a while since we talked about the components of this, so I'm going to move east to west, and that's what you're going to see in the following slide where we show some time lapse of the construction sequencing for these different elements. But first of all, the operable weir. 100 years ago, there was a north-south trending natural ridge that went through where that operable weir is located, and it kept water that fell on the, rainwater that fell on the west side of that natural ridge went west towards the St. Johns River, and it also went east on the east side to the Indian River Lagoon. So that M1 canal about 100 years ago was dredged. What that did, that opened up that area to the west, and now that water also flows to the Indian River Lagoon along with the increased level of nutrients. So the operable weir is the first thing you'll see, and then the other component here, the east pump station. Now, because we stage that weir up, we can pump the base flow back to the west through that pump station beneath I-95 in that east stormwater force main, and then that will be discharged into the stormwater treatment area. From there, it'll enter, after the nutrients settle out, that water will be pumped through an intake at the west pump station into that discharged stormwater main down 192 into a discharge location into a marsh, and that water will then sheet flow, that water that's now treated better, that will sheet flow into the St. Johns River. So as I click the next button here, we'll start at the operable weir, and all these photos will move west. And you can see the names of the features you're looking at down in the lower right and the dates when these photographs were taken. And that's a weir right there. You can see in the lower part of the photo. And then that's the operations building where the controls are. Now moving on to the east pump station. And now the east intake structure, which is at the east pump station along the M1 canal. And it's all finished. Now, before I click to the next slide, you can see the date on this is 2019. So St. John's Heritage Parkway is a major road that's right alongside the West Pump Station and stormwater treatment area. So we worked with Brevard County. They had to do a stormwater retention pond anyway for that road. We worked with Brevard County to have them fabricate that into a stormwater treatment area that would effectively put in enough retention time on the water we put into it to let those nutrients settle out. So we're really happy. We're very grateful to Brevard County for that relationship, and we saved $600,000 on the construction of this area because they were already going to dig this anyway. We just modified the design. So the next slides you'll see is a west pump station and the intake and pumps. Yeah, so we'll just let it roll and stop talking. And then the intake and pump station's in the background. And then this is a discharge going into the marsh. Okay, so that's Crane Creek. It's pretty much done. Any questions before we move on to Black Creek?
The weir there, Dale, is that, I didn't look at it closely, is it fixed crest weir? Or is
No, it's operable. It can go up and down, so we stage it up so we can pump the backflow back to the west.
Yeah, it looked like it. And is it operable? Does it drop from the top down? It doesn't open?
It rolls. There's like a big balloon behind it, and when we, it's lack of a better word, when we deflate that structure, it will drop.
Okay.
Inflate it, it'll come back up.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to Black Creek, you can see the pump station intake and pipeline. They're all done. All the construction now is limited to the treatment system, so that's pretty much what we'll look at in the coming photographs. Again, just a little brief discussion. The pump station intake is done. You can see that's up along State Road 16, and then the 17-mile pipeline down to the treatment system. So when we look at this sequence of photographs, I'm going to start with the pump station. It's really kind of it really shows well in these in the sequencing of photographs, because you may recall, you know, that we've got the intake way down here, okay, on Black Creek, and then the pump station's up here. And there's a 750-foot difference, you know, between the two. And so we drilled this horizontal micro tunnel from the intake all the way up to where the pump station would be. We did that to avoid wetland impacts. And so, but what that related to was a 40-foot difference in elevation. So when we start rolling the video here, the photos, you'll see that a big hole in the ground. Now, we had to dig way down there, and then you'll see the pump cans that were put in place, and then it all gets backfilled, and eventually we got the pumps in the pump station on top. So we'll get going with that. So that started in 2022. In general, I want you to notice everybody has hard hats. You can see it's a deep hole. It's big. And those are the pump cans. The micro tunnel eventually comes through down there. And so this is when the micro tunnel actually came through, right at this point. And that's the end. Pump station completed. Moving on to the treatment system. Each of those 6 cells a little over 2 acres in size. So liners going in place on cells 1 through 3, then aggregate. There's a media going into cell 1. Cell 1 full of media, cell 2 full of media. And we're starting the media installation on cell 3. That should be done by the end of this month or so. Cells 4 through 6, media should be in by November. And we're hoping that all 6 cells will be remotely operated with water going into Alligator Creek by early January. So things are coming right along. And we'd also expect water to be going into Alligator Creek hopefully sometime later this month. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Pretty cool.
So this month, there's going to be water going into Alligator Creek, you think?
Yes.
Some
All
cool
right.
projects.
How about that? All right, so we've still planned on, at some point in time, us all having a visit and all the things that one needs to do to appropriately recognize this moment. All right, great work. Anybody have any questions for Dale? As we come to the end of a long and winding road on both projects.
Thank you.
All right, great. All right, item 10, this is public comment.
Yes, sir. We have 4 today. The first is Gary Basham with Brevard County Natural Resources Department.
Okay.
Good morning. I'm Gary Basham, engineer and project manager with the Brevard County Stormwater Program under the Natural Resources Management Department. And I'd like to thank the board and district staff today for partnering with Brevard County on past projects, and in particular the project you passed today, item number 20, Flamingo Drive Stormwater Denitrification Chamber Project. This project is anticipated to remove 151 pounds per year of nitrogen and 31 pounds per year of phosphorus from the total nutrient load into Banana River. Our ongoing efforts to remove nutrients from the Indian River Lagoon system and reduce ongoing nutrient loads are improving water quality in this significant estuary. With local support through Brevard County Stormwater Utility Fee and Save Our Indian River Lagoon 1/2 cent sales tax and grants such as the one that you approved today, we're making significant progress on restoring Indian River Lagoon estuary. There's much more to do to bring the lagoon back to health, and we're continually evaluating these two techniques, ideas, technology utilize the most efficient methods for restoring the health lagoon. We look forward to partnering with you with more projects in the future. Thank you for your time.
Our next commenter is Ms. Vivian Katz-James, representing Solo.
Vivian Katz-James, President, Save Our Lakes Organization, Keystone Heights, Florida. I had a couple of pictures for you today, but I understand I'm not allowed to do that, so I'll describe it. Let me just say one thing real quickly about land management, since there's been a lot of discussion. Christine Wenzel has been an absolute star in helping us with a lot of things with our Geneva Restoration Project. She helped us, held our hand and helped us get through DEP permitting. That project is now permitted. The 21-day waiting period has gone by without any challenges. So we are ready to go. The county is in charge of that, so they are in the process of, I think, issuing an RFP, if I've got that term right, I think this week. I brought this before you guys over a year ago. I said, I promise we won't ask for any money, and we're not. And that's part of the reason, frankly, due to Ms. Giabi White, because many years ago she said to somebody standing up here who were asking for something, she said, you know, do these other counties, do the other people have skin in the game? So I went to our city council, Keystone Heights City Council, and then to the Clay County Commission, and I said, we don't have skin in the game when we're going and talking to the district. So we have a fund, a lake fund at the county and the city, so it looks like we're going to be able to totally pay for this. So anyway, thank you, Christine. I also want to say Black Creek Project, wow, we're ready to roll. I think, I don't know when the celebration is, but we need to have some fireworks or something. But anyway, so all of this is happening, finally coming to fruition after a lot of years. But we decided that, you know, the Geneva needed to be cleaned up, so we're good to go there. Well, we also decided that the timber company going in there was probably going to run into a lot of stuff other than trees and vegetation. So Saturday 26th or 27th, we had a Geneva cleanup day. We had someone donate a commercial dumpster. We had someone show up with a bread tractor. We had about 37 folks volunteering, and we collected 1.5 tons of material and took it out of the lake bed, and it's now in Rosemary Hill. So thank you.
Great work.
Our next commenter today is, and I apologize if I mispronounce it, Tim Hodeling from San Mateo.
That's real close.
Okay, good.
Make sure you let us know how to get it just right. Your pronunciation.
Hi, I'm Tim Hoteling. I've been fortunate to have a house along the St. Johns River in San Mateo for 14 years, I guess. When we first started there was all kind of aquatic vegetation. And I brought some photos to show the timeline. And it was really wonderful. And then we had a couple of hurricanes and the vegetation went away, and I started talking to my senators and asking for help. We got a little bit of help. I was putting these flyers up that say no grass, no bass, because there is a fix. You guys have Riley Timms working for you. You need to can him and clone him. He knows all kinds of stuff. He came out and we had, I was fortunate enough to hook up with Dan Colderman from Fish and Wildlife Aquatic Habitat Rehabilitation. And between a bunch of them, we had some cages in front of my house. Put the cages down, the seeds grew. It was miraculous. It was really exciting. And we had grass. Unfortunately, it hasn't really maintained that way. In the handouts is one of the Water Management Division's studies of eelgrass and submerged and emergent vegetation. It shows that you've got basically nothing between here and below Astor. All of our bass tournaments, they have to run 60 miles to get down there. About a year ago, I was here, 2 years ago, and I was all excited because of, like I said, the grass grew. Bassmaster Elite had gone away and came back. They put out a really great showing of how we were putting up more fencing, and the fencing was doing wonders. We had, it hasn't worked out quite that well. And the reason that I'm here is I would like to encourage you all to get your staff to give you an update on just the conditions of the river. I would encourage you to include the Fish and Wildlife Commission, Aquatic Habitat Restoration folk. We've been putting fencing up. Even last weekend, the last week I was out with the river keepers, and we were erecting fences. Unfortunately, the fences that were erected last year are no longer successful. I think there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. To Phil, we've got the cooter turtle problem, alligators, you got the manatees. They've figured out how to get into the fence, and of course they're special. So once they're in under the fence, some of that fencing had to go down. The system works, but when you've got a lot of what they say grazers, it doesn't work so well. In my personal case, I had a turtle that hopped the fence, and they had single-celled algae called lungbaya, which is really sort of pretty, but I was having to take 2 5-gallon buckets of that stuff out of my quarter-acre yard every day, and it didn't do the grass. Bottom line is, where I had a quarter acre with nothing but really good green grass, I've got little pockets of it now. And there's just as the reason the grass went away, the reason it tried to come back, and the reason that it may or not be coming back are questions that I think that deserve answers, and I think you guys deserve, pardon me, an update from people that are real knowledgeable. Again, I brought some photos so you can see the progression. I've done everything I can to try and get the people in Tallahassee to participate, and I haven't had much luck. Some really good folk. You haven't given, in my estimation, an awareness of all the aggravation you're paying for Lake Okeechobee. You know, hundreds and millions of you've got 60 to 80 acres or miles of the St. Johns River that doesn't have effectively any submerged aquatic vegetation, very little emergent aquatic vegetation, and it's a really big problem, and you can't fix it until you start. So, and I have lots of photos, lots of things I can say if you have any questions, but I think it deserves a staff report in conjunction with all of the work that Fish and Wildlife has been doing.
Thank you, sir.
Our last commenter today is Lucas Rivera from Galileo School.
Hi, Lucas.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Go ahead.
My name is Lucas Rivera. I am 10 and in 4th grade. I attend Galileo School for Gifted Learning, and it's the best school ever. I am really nervous and excited to have this opportunity to speak to you guys today. Water is life. We cannot live without water, so we have to protect it and keep it clean. I want to share an experience that me and my friends just had. You see, Miss Patterson, our assistant principal, received a grant for all of 4th and 5th graders from my school to go to Blue Springs to collect water samples so we could test how clean it is. Before our trip, we got a grant that paid for materials to make our own water filters out of plastic water bottles, rocks, activated charcoal, coffee filters, and sand. We compared Galileo's water to Blue Springs water by filtering them in our DIY filters. I can say Florida's water is crystal clear and 1000% drinkable. I had the chance to research how dirty water can affect a community and how scary it is. Dirty water can make people sick. We saw that people can lose their ability to speak and they can even die. This made me realize how fortunate I am to live in a place where I have clean water to drink. I don't have to worry about my water when I turn on the faucet. I really enjoyed my visit to Blue Springs. We got to collect samples of water from the springs, we measured tree trunks, listed all the animals we saw, and got a relaxing day to watch the manatees float through Blue Springs and the St. Johns River. The water in Blue Springs is clearer than I thought it would be. When we got back to our school, we filtered the water we had collected. Our assistant principal, Miss Patterson, gave us a petri dish with the gel-like substance in it so we can compare Blue Springs water and Galileo's water in. We were trying to see which water samples would mold first. It actually took some days, but just like I thought, the spring water eventually showed some bacteria. The faucet water, however, never did show any issues. I am really grateful for this grant because it gave me and my friends the opportunity to have a nice fun day taking a field trip to Blue Springs, get hands-on with making some water filters, and to test things like real scientists. This grant also gave me the chance to learn about how important clean, safe water really is and how damaging our lives can be without it. I want to give a shout out to all my family, friends, and teachers for cheering me on and giving me the courage to be here today. And I especially want to thank my mom and dad for all they have done to get me to this point. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Well, Lucas, you are the last public speaker today, and you were the perfect speaker to talk to us about your experience and the wonderful teachers that you've had and your wonderful parents who have encouraged you to follow your interests and learn more. And thank you for sharing that with us. And what it did for me personally is it reminded me of how excited I am to do this job. And I think that you also have made everyone who works here excited even more than they were before they came to work today about doing the jobs that we do. So you being here today really helped improve our day, and you gave us some good food for thought about moving forward as well. So great work.
Thank you.
Does any, I'm going to skip around a little bit because I don't want to go straight into litigation. Because Lucas did such a good job. Are there any governing board comments? Anyone? Mike, if you could give us a report and calendar, and then we'll go back to Aaron, and then we'll finish up.
The presentation. There we go.
She's not going to bring us down, Mike.
Let me see. You cut out all the bad slides and only go happy stuff. If you want to go to the first one. I want to congratulate Jessica Quiggle in our General Counsel's office and Mike McMonigal in our strategic planning area for recently completing the Natural Resource Leadership Institute program, or NERLI. Jessica was actually selected as the first recipient of the Environmental and Land Use Law Section's Attorney Scholarship. So she got a scholarship to attend the course. Since 1998, NERLI has trained Florida professionals to navigate complex natural resource challenges through collaboration and inclusive leadership. The program connects leaders across sectors of government, legal, nonprofit, academic, and private to build common ground on key environmental issues. Next slide. Jody Slater was recently elected president-elect of the Florida chapter of the Wildlife Society, a statewide professional organization focusing on advancing wildlife conservation through science, collaboration, and education. Her new role strengthens our connections with agencies, NGOs, and conservation partners, helping the district further its mission through shared knowledge and coordinated action. Next. We got a child to work today, but we also had trying to encourage others, or our Take Your Child to Work Day. Had about 72 kids and 40 staff members were able to participate. I want to thank Allie Pressel, the district's education and outreach coordinator, and all the staff members who planned and led the activities. Their efforts made the day very organized, informative, and enjoyable for everyone that was involved, and gave the kids a hands-on look at how we manage water, land, and wildlife and why it matters. Next. And very topical right here, back in November of 2024, that's when the board approved the $50,000 in Blue School grant funding to support 26 teachers from 25 schools. The selected project represented 9 of our counties with the focus on water resource education, from hands-on water quality testing, as we just heard about, to exploring water conservation careers. Nearly 1,900 students were reached through the funded projects during the 2024-2025 year. The new Blue School grant application cycle will open in August of 2025.
Are there any applicants or applications that we're not able to
That weren't able
address
to be funded.
because of lack of funds? In other words, I'm sure it's a competitive situation, but what is sort of the demand I'm not, somebody submitted an insufficient application, then I'm not interested in doing that, but are there any applications that were submitted where they were providing a sufficient and worthwhile program that we were not able to fund?
I'll have to check to be sure, but I think we were able to fund all the applicants that met the qualifications.
Well, to the extent that there are applications, that were submitted from schools like Lucas's school, or other schools that, because of lack of resources, we weren't able to fund, then if we could that could be brought to our attention, just to make sure that we could find some coins in the couch to make sure that happens.
Yep, we will do that. And the next board meeting is June 10th. For calendar.
All right. Ms. Preston, you're recognized.
Good morning or good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the board. I mentioned last month that we were working through negotiations and waiting on orders, and I think the judges heard us, so I'll have several resolutions to report this month. The first 2 are actually ways that folks in my office, along with the regulatory staff, were able to avoid litigation. There were 2 consumptive use permittees who had filed petitions to extend their respective time periods in which to file a petition to challenge their own permits. These are generally filed so that they can engage in further discussion with staff to resolve issues. And I'm happy to report that last month, 2 of those that we had received, which were the only ones pending, were both resolved, and everyone went away with an appreciation for the resolution. The other 3 updates I have are resolved cases. The first one is Bear Warriors United, Sweetwater Coalition of Volusia County, and others versus the Department of Transportation and the district. This, as you recall, was an appeal from a district final order from March of 2024 after a challenge to an environmental resource permit issued to the department for a road project in Volusia County. After a briefing and oral argument at the 5th District Court of Appeal, the court issued an order on April 29th that per curiam affirmed the district's final order to issue the permit. The next case is the Florida Springs Council versus the Department of Environmental Protection. And the St. John's District, along with Southwest Florida Water Management District, were interveners in that case because the outcome of the case would impact whether the district would apply the proposed rules to consumptive uses of water that might impact outstanding Florida springs or spring runs within our districts. The hearing was in Tallahassee in March, and the administrative law judge issued a final order on May 5th, finding that the rules were not an invalid use of delegated legislative authority. If you don't like the double negative, that means the rule was upheld. And so that was a final order. And then the last case is Ned and Deborah Bowers versus Southeastern Surveying and Mapping, Thomas Meade, Orange County, some others, and the district. This was a case that was in circuit court in Orange County against the district and several others. The claims related to concerns about an environmental resource permit in Orange County, which was actually litigated at the Division of Administrative Hearings, and the district's final order was ultimately affirmed on appeal. The judge dismissed all of the claims that were pending against this district on May 7th. This concludes my report.
All right, does anybody have any questions of Ms. Preston regarding pending legal matters? All right, seeing none. Did you handle the future meetings?
Yes,
You
June
did.
10th.
June 10th, okay, great. All right, is there any other business to come before the board today? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.
Very good.